Okay, so looking at the numbers, we see the growth in total deaths in the world up to 70,000-ish, and that will continue to go. Uh, if we break this down and look more closely, we can see the times it takes to double the deaths, and the United States is doing a tad better at 4 days than it was in general, and that's reassuring. However, if we look at 7 days ago, we can see the slope of the United States curve here at the beginning. And if we now zoom into now, we see that whilst Italy and Spain seem to maybe be hitting their inflection point, the United States is still shooting up. So we have not yet seen the effect of our social isolation and social distancing policies. This week, still the entire United States is not taking this as seriously as it needs to be. And just to look at all countries over time, we can get a sense of sort of the growth rate. So here's China growing, and this is looking at the total deaths over the deaths in the last week. So if China goes down with their weekly deaths, Italy shoots up, but it's curving, Spain shoots up, and you'll notice US is continuing to shoot up. We are not yet seeing the flattening of our curve. So the good news is that there's a lot of stuff going on. First of all, the recent respiratory virus shedding and exhaled breath showed that wearing masks can reduce those numbers and likely can be extrapolated to people minimizing the risk of infection with interactions. The big risk here is that people will become complacent and start to feel like they can recongregate, and we are definitely not there yet. We've also seen some other research that's being done looking at convalescent plasma, which is essentially the antibodies taken out of people who've had this infection. There won't be nearly enough of that available to go around. And they are looking at monoclonal antibodies that can be produced in massive numbers. That research is one of these listed here. The FDA has now approved a phase 3 human trial for tocilizumab for COVID-19. That is something that is an anti-IL-6 or an anti-cytokine, anti-chemical that suppresses the immune system because much of the effects on the lungs appear to be from an overactive immune system responding to this virus. And then peer-to-peer contact tracing is research that's being done. And I mention that because one can easily ask, okay, so what happens now? Let's say we bend our curve. We sort of can start to see our curve going down. What then? Well, there's a number of scenarios, and this is an incredible presentation done by someone, and I'm just going to show it to you really quickly. Now, this is where the line is where we run over hospital capacity. So anytime the red goes up above this line, we have a mortality rate that shoots up, and there'll be much more grief and much more complications from that. So we see a pretty amazing few things, and I think what that tells us is we really do need to implement strict quarantine tracing and tracking and letting us use our technology. So this is Kinsa temperature thermometer heat maps, not related to COVID. This is just looking at 7-day illness trends related to influenza. Now, not enough people are using this, so it's really not that useful at this point, but this could be used. And in fact, I just want to show you something else, that if we connect this to our telephones, I think we might have the answer. So let me just play this real quickly for you.
We wanted to see the true footprint social gatherings like spring break beach crowds could really have on our society in the face of a global pandemic. To do so, we started with the big picture, powering our engine with billions of anonymized location data points from mobile devices across the globe. Using Tectonics, we can then zoom in on specific regions. Here, we focus specifically on just one beach in Fort Lauderdale during the month of March. Again, each of these data points shown on the map corresponds to a unique mobile device active on a given day. You can see clearly that device activity spikes during the 2-week stretch of early to mid-March corresponding with spring break. No surprise. Now, using an analysis called a spider query, we can actually track movement of these devices over the remaining weeks of March, seeing where these devices went after spring breakers left the beach. As we zoom further and further out, it becomes clear just how massive the potential impact just one single beach gathering can have in spreading this virus across our nation. It can be hard for us to realize sometimes just how connected our world really is, until the data tells the stories that we just can't see.
So that really shows that if we can connect our cell phones with temperature, heat maps, symptoms, we might be able to get somewhere and get out of quarantine faster. Clearly, as we come out, there will be changes in the workplace. Things are going to change. And so I leave you with just some information. Stay home still. We don't have enough data to know exactly what's going on. Stay home. Don't get complacent now. The face masks will help you, if you have it, reduce the transmission to others and possibly protect you from transmission from others. But this, if we start getting together again, we're going to be in trouble. The jury is still out on whether or not this thing can be transmitted through virus being shedded through stool in people who've already recovered. They're looking into that. Minimize your trips, because each time you go somewhere where other people go, you are at a much higher risk of getting this. Avoiding people, staying with the same people, markedly reduces your risk. Be mindful, help others. There are a lot of people who will be acting, behaving, needing things that they didn't previously require. And so we need to be helpful and mindful for those as well as ourselves. And, let's be that person we want to be during this crisis. If we need help, let's get help. If we don't need help, let's not take that help from others who do need it. And if you get symptoms, feel free to contact me.